Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing Guilliman's top 5 priorities within Imperium Nihlus. No real need for a spoiler warning today, but just keep in mind we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe. So with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. So Guilliman's promised invasion is about to begin. The Lord Commander's next stage of Indomitus is about to cross the rift. While we don't know for sure what his plans and intentions are just yet, one thing is for sure, it will be bringing redemption and vengeance to Imperium Nihlus. And with that in mind today, I wanted to discuss where or what his priorities could be. The places within Imperium Nihlus the Indomitus fleets could prioritise. At this point there's only one real particular objective we know, so obviously this is pretty wide open for now. However, there are some pretty important regions or factors in Imperium Nihlus that would absolutely warrant the Lord Commander's attention. So, the top 5 priorities for the Indomitus Crusade within Imperium Nihlus, at least in my opinion. Number 1. The one priority we most likely know is going to be a big objective for Guilliman, the Nachmund Gauntlet. While any crossing of the Great Rift is fraught with peril, a genuine risk to the vessels and lives therein, the Nachmund Gauntlet is the most prominent and stable route currently known to the Imperium. The problem, however, is that that's known to Abaddon the Despoiler as well. And as a result, the Nachmund Gauntlet has come under constant assault by the forces of chaos. As much as the Imperium froze at the battle zone, chaos froze more. And with the systems either end of the rift, the vital strongholds, none more so than Vigilus itself, the Imperium is fairly limited on what it can do. However, if Guilliman could cross the rift elsewhere and approach the gauntlet from the Nihilus side, recapturing and cutting off the systems surrounding it as he does so, limiting and removing the power bases of chaos, well then the Imperium might just be able to free the Nachmund Gauntlet from assault, thus opening the most stable crossing the rift has, and most importantly, a stable supply route from Imperium Sanctus. Because for me, as we touched on in our previous conversation, that's really going to be one of the most important factors for Guilliman's war in Imperium Nihlus, ensuring adequate supplies, because they'll be far harder to come by within the Dark Imperium, which has fallen to far more of Chaos's assault. And it appears it could certainly be Guilliman's intent, now that the Attilan Gate crossing has been discovered. However, that does leave almost the full length of Imperium Nihlus to fight through. So while this could be a main objective, it's most certainly not an easy one. Now, objective number 2, for me would fall very much in the same line of thinking here, the need to ensure supplies. And as such, I would say Forge Worlds within Imperium Nihlus would be a very big priority. There are of course countless across the northern half of the galaxy, an untold number Guilliman could choose to focus on. But in checking the map of Adeptus Mechanicus Forge Worlds from their codexes, we know there are in fact 2 major ones located within Imperium Nihlus: Triplex Fall and Lucius. I would highly expect these 2 powerhouses of Imperium production to be very high on Guilliman's priority list, particularly Triplex Fall, which is not too far from the Attilan system, which possibly could be the nearby system the Attilan Gate was named after. Triplex Fall is located on the eastern fringe, meaning it's hardly conveniently located for a push towards the Nachmund Gauntlet. However, in being not too far from the Attilan Gate and the Rift itself, it would surely make an early priority to secure, for the fleets to have that flow of arms, war gear and ammunition north of the Rift, plus being perfectly located for any fleets Guilliman would task to reconquer the eastern half of Nihilus. It also, maybe most importantly of all, is home to the Titan Legion Legio Victorum, as well as having the allegiance of over 12 knight households. That is a formidable amount of force that could be secured and added to the Indomitus Crusade, and fairly early on after its crossing to boot, assuming it does come through the Attilan Gate. Titan Legions are the biggest, most devastating weapon in the Imperium's arsenal, and I couldn't believe for one second that Guilliman wouldn't see the need to secure Triplex Fall so early on in the next stage of his plan. We know the Forge World is still standing too, having fought off a Death Guard invasion led by Typhus, and a demonic incursion as well. All Guilliman needs to do is secure a path to it, which again, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a fleet tasked with right away. Securing the forges, much needed arms and resources, securing the Titans, the most valuable weapons possible, especially in this darkened age, and even the simple political support this would bring from the Mechanicum Entire, one of their most prized Forge Worlds secured. It's a win-win in every possible way. Now Lucius, while not having the Titan Legions, is even more of a powerhouse in terms of its production. However, it's located up to the northwest of Imperium Nihlus. So, assuming the crossing does come at the Attilan Gate, this would be one that's far more a long-term goal, rather than an early one. If I'm surprised and Guilliman comes crashing through the Nachmund Gauntlet instead, just smashing his way through in an overwhelming display of power, which you just know someone like Ferrus would have done, well then Lucius would be the more convenient early priority instead. So, for me, with the flow of supplies going to be far more a concern north of the Rift, with many of the worlds found and liberated simply unable to contribute to the future crusade, the Forge Worlds are going to be vital to secure, particularly those major ones. Moving on, objective number 3, securing a path to Baal. With Guilliman's appointing of Dante as the Warden of Imperium Nihlus, it wasn't simply the Blood Angels chapter that became far more important for the Dark Imperium Entire. It was the Baal system itself. Guilliman would task Dante with rebuilding his home, yet not simply as it was, but as it should be, to become a beacon of enlightenment for the Imperium, a place where the people could be raised from the darkness and squalor into the light of reason. In many ways, Baal was to become a terror of the North, or maybe more appropriately, an Ultramar, with Baal as its Macragge. As Dante would try to salvage and build his military, so too would his system be transformed, with Baal destined to become a focal point of Imperium Nihlus, a stronghold of its defense, the stronghold. It's important some form of corridor of passage is opened up from the rift towards it. Now, of course, they can't do anything about the warp, Travel within Imperium Nihlus is even worse than within Sanctus. Of course without the Emperor's Astronomicon, reduced to short, hopeful jumps at best. However, in at least ridding a corridor of territory of Chaos's presence towards Baal, it would at least make those times outside of those jumps easier, more reliable, knowing you're at least more likely to have a chance to recuperate before your next dive back into the warp. Even maybe having a safe haven rest in an Imperial system. It would make the passage from the crossing of the rift to Baal so much safer. No, it could never be guaranteed that side of the rift, but it would at least increase the chances of getting to Baal alive. And if Dante is ever going to become a true leader of Imperium Nihlus, he at least needs to have a semi-reliable line of communication with the rest of the Imperium south of the rift. For me, it's a no-brainer. If you make Baal that important, you need to make the pathway there easier, or at least even possible. Next, objective number 4, the Stygius Warzone and the liberation of Mordian. Now, Mordian is located fairly near to the Nachmund Gauntlet, and if the Imperium could prove victorious there, Mordian would make a perfect objective to move on to next. The system has been under constant assault from the forces of Chaos, and it's a warzone that has seen the Iron Hands and their successors drawn in to aid the famed Mordian Iron Guard. And this could represent a twofold objective. Not only relieving a homeworld of a prominent Imperial Guard contributor, freeing that world to once again add its forces to the Militarum, which of course would be desperately needed, but it would also be a big PR and morale boost to the Imperium at large. A prominent symbol of the Militarum, once again restored and reunited, contributing in the name of the Emperor once again. For all of Guilliman's matter-of-fact ways, he's not oblivious to the wider morale effects, as was abundantly clear with his adamant support of the Space Wolves chapter, even in face of Grimnar's defiance. And not only would this free up Mordian to aid the wider Militarum picture again, but the system is also in close proximity to the Forge World Cipra Mundi, which has actually been aiding in its defense. So, in freeing Mordian, not only would Guilliman regain that stronghold and its manpower, but also secure the safety and resources of another valuable Forge World. That certainly seems like a smart objective to consider. And finally, objective number 5, reinforcing the Order of the Valorous Heart. There are 3 major orders of the Sisterhood within Imperium Nihlus. The Order of our Martyred Lady has much of its territory around the thick of the fighting, extending over both sides of the rift. The Order of the Sacred Rose is far out to the northern border, about as far as you can get. As such, you may expect one of those to be the priority instead, and maybe they will be. The Martyred Lady's territory covers the Nachmund Gauntlet, Mordian, Cipra Mundi, many of Guilliman's surest priorities. However, that's why for me, it is not a concern, because it's within clear areas of Guilliman's interest, and not to mention it is by far the largest order. For all the Sacred Rose's isolation, it has actually withstood the storm of chaos remarkably well, with only a few of its worlds falling, and most of its territory remaining secure. As such, the Sacred Rose has become a beacon of light amid the dark, and they've even been sighted sending reinforcements across the Dark Imperium, which, considering the state of Imperium Nihlus, is pretty much unheard of. So it's the valorous heart who is in the need of reinforcement. Its territory facing huge assaults of chaos, demons pouring in from the moment the rift erupted, and its worlds are left isolated and alone, still valiantly holding out against the ruinous powers. Guilliman may not like the notion of faith and worship in his father, but he importantly understands and sees the advantages it brings, the strength the sisterhood represents, and the boost they bestow on the Imperium at large. Located on the eastern fringe, within the region of Attilan and Triplex Fall, the territory of the Valorous Heart would make a logical next move on the eastern fringe, if a fleet or two is tasked with that objective, and reinforcing and saving an order of the Sisterhood from assault would not only add their immeasurable forces and presence to the crusade, but would bring a tremendous boost in faith and resistance against the ruinous powers. In the war against the demon, Grey Knights and the Silent Sisterhood aside, there are arguably no forces more valuable than the Adepta Sororitas. So, ensuring the survival of one, and then adding its resources to the crusade, would surely be a very smart move. So for me, that is 5 priority objectives within Imperium Nihlus. Number 1, the Nachmund Gauntlet. Number 2, securing of Forge Worlds. Number 3, clearing a path of territory to Baal. Number 4, liberating the Mordian region and Cipramundi. And finally, number 5, reinforcing the Order of the Valorous Heart. Of course, it could turn out to be none of these, it could turn out to be all of them. In a galaxy crying out for salvation, only Guilliman can know where his priorities will go. But as always everyone, what do you think? Once Guilliman's Indomitus Crusade launches into Imperium Nihlus, where do you think his first objectives will go? What areas of territory or priorities do you feel Guilliman will consider? Like me, do you feel a lot of his reasoning will be governed by securing much needed supplies, considering they will be far harder to come by within Imperium Nihlus? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.